Hello and welcome to Indian Standard Time. I'm Zakka Jacob. Turkey sits at the crossroads between East and West. It also sits at the front lines of two wars, the war against the Islamic State and the civil war in Syria. Although Turkey is not a direct participant in either of these two wars, the consequences are very real for this country. On Indian Standard Time this week, we're joined by the Honorable Ambassador of Turkey to India, Burak Akçapar. Welcome to Indian Standard Time.
Thank you.
So let me start off with the biggest news point that the world is talking about, and that is the war on the Islamic State. It's going to be 2 months since the US President Barack Obama declared the so-called war on the Islamic State. I want your thoughts as a representative of a country that's in the region, even though it's not directly involved in that war. The consequences are real for you. What is your assessment of the war so far?
Well, we wished very much that it didn't come to that, but we are at a point where there was a need for the airstrikes against Daesh. We as Turkey, we have been drawing attention to the rise of extremism in Syria and also in Iraq, basically due to the divisive and sectarian policies of the two governments. And we regret the stage that we're in, and there are very direct consequences on Turkey. We have over 1,200 kilometers of border with these countries, and we are now hosting more than 1.6 million refugees from Syria, and we have spent some $4 billion this far in providing clothing, shelter to these people.
You mentioned airstrikes. So far, the campaign has gone on for a couple of months. There aren't effective ground troops there other than sort of motley armies that have been put together. You think the strategy will work? Is it working in your assessment?
We don't think that airstrikes by themselves will be enough to resolve this problem. There must be a comprehensive and holistic approach. That would take into account why extremism has taken root and why it has, developed over the course of time. And this is due to the policies of the two governments. They are the sole responsible. Take a look at what's happening in Syria. We have a regime that sends more than 400 cruise missiles against the very people it purports to represent and govern. The opposition, the Syrian people, is facing war crimes perpetrated by its own government. As long as these policies continue, the extremism will rise and all the region will suffer from this.
So why then isn't Turkey committing its troops to fight this war?
Well, we have done more than anyone else did in terms of alleviating the consequences of the chaos that took root in two countries. We have provided shelter to, as I said, more than 1.6 million people. And we have now some 22 camps within Turkey that are providing shelter. If you look at the case of Kobani, for instance, well, the entire town of Kobani, the entire population of Kobani, some 200,000 people, are now living in Turkey.
That's right.
They have fled into Turkey.
So they're basically fighting for a ghost town.
Well, yes, there are the PYD forces there. And we are basically the main artery to provide relief initially to the people of Kobani, and now to those fighting there.
What is the status of the fight in Kobani? I mean, again, it's been going on for 2 months. The world is watching this. It's rather amazing, isn't it, that here's a small town on the border between Syria and Turkey, and for 2 months, it's just swinging between the Islamic State and the so-called allied forces. What is the status of this town, and why is this town so important?
Well, the town has not fallen to Daesh. The fighting continues, and the airstrikes are being undertaken against the Daesh forces. We don't want Kobani to fall, that's for sure. We also do not want Kobani to be the only item in the debate, in the discussion with regard to what's been happening in the region. Therefore, we are trying to make sure that people understand the whole dimension of the problem of extremism rising in Western Asia.
It's interesting. There has been criticism of the Turkish government's approach in this war against the Islamic State, saying that why is it that a country, and you mentioned this earlier as well, that you are bearing the consequences of this war. You have 1.6 million refugees who you have to cater to. With NATO, I think out of the 28 countries, 27 of them are saying that Turkey should be part of the military alliance, send troops in there and fight this war, because otherwise this is just going to be protracted. Why is Turkey then pulling in a different direction, almost like a lone ranger, if you will?
Well, lone ranger in providing humanitarian relief.
Sure.
We have received only some $200 million from as in terms of support to our own efforts to provide relief to the Syrian people.
Right.
Basically, we've been battling alone for close to 2 years now, 3 years now, yeah. To make sure that the Syrian people can survive this ordeal. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a strategy that is based on either starve or surrender by the Syrian regime. Some 250,000 people are facing that prospect. The issue is not easy to be resolved and cannot be resolved by just saving this town or that town. Okay. It can only be resolved by a genuine political transformation happening in Syria.
But the Assad government is not willing to do that. They've tried that in the past. They've tried that under 2 UN-backed mediators. The Assad government is simply not willing to even talk about a transitional government that does not include him.
That's for sure. They have abused the fact that the international community have not been able to come together forcefully in defense of the rights of the Syrian people for a representative government. Okay. and protection against a tyrannical regime. So basically, we still champion the formation of a transitional governing body with full executive powers. Mm-hmm. That have full control over government institutions.
You're still hopeful, 3.5 years after the civil war began.
Well, you cannot give up hope, and you still work hard rather than venture into, activities on your own.
Okay, we won't give up on hope. We're going to take a break here on the Indian Standard Time. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation with the Turkish ambassador and things closer home, his time here in India, his new book on Indo-Turkish history, and also engagement with the new Indian government. This is Indian Standard Time. Keep it right here. Welcome back to Indian Standard Time. We're in conversation with the Honorable Turkish Ambassador to India, Burak Akçapar. The first part of the interview was the tough part of the interview, where you had to deal with critical issues that your country is faced with. I want to now talk about the Indo-Turkish bilateral relationship. You've been here more than 3 years. What is your sense of the new government, Prime Minister Modi, the campaigns that he's running, Make in India? Do you see any difference in your engagement with the new Indian government, the Indian bureaucracy?
I must say that I've been truly impressed by a very short meeting I had with the Honorable Prime Minister right before the elections, where he immediately told me that he wanted much more trade and cooperation with Turkey. And he followed this up in a recent tweet diplomacy, if you will. On our National Day, I was truly positively surprised to receive on my mobile a tweet by the Honorable Prime Minister, who congratulated Turkey on its Republic Day, and also reaffirmed his willingness, his commitment to improving ties with Turkey.
What is holding back the relationship in terms of trade? You mentioned it's just far underperforming the potential. What are the obstacles that, say, Turkish companies face when they want to do business with India?
I think 2 things need to be done as soon as possible to make sure that we are closer to the immense potential that these 2 rising stars in the international scene, these 2 gigantic G20 economies can achieve. And one is that we need to renew the infrastructure of the relationship, if you will. We have an outdated trade agreement that needs to be updated. We need a comprehensive economic and trade and investment package that needs to be negotiated. We need to make sure that we have more flights, for instance, between the two countries.
That's right.
There is tremendous increase, 50% this year only, in the number of people who are applying for visa, for instance. This despite the fact that we have introduced e-visa to Indian nationals. People want to travel more. We need the opening of cultural centers in respective countries. And all these things, we have packaged them in a comprehensive kind of proposal that would come under an action plan, and would need to be put into force so that our trade communities, our universities, our cultural people, our tourists, and our diplomats can drive from and dash ahead.
I want to talk a little bit about the wider region, given what's happening in Afghanistan, given the fact that Turkey is the convener of the Istanbul process, and both Turkey and India have a stake in a future Afghanistan as the troops there, the NATO troops, withdraw. How do you see the evolving situation there, and what, in your opinion, are the points of convergence between Turkey and India in a future Afghanistan?
Well, this is a critical year for Afghanistan, a critical year in which, of course, there is drawdown of international forces, and the seizure of control, the taking over of the Afghan national security and defense forces. We are very hopeful. We're full of positive energy with regard to Afghanistan. Of course, things will not be easy, but the Afghan National Security and Defense Forces have become a force to be reckoned with.
You are not worried that Afghanistan will become the next Iraq, that the next Islamic State would usher in Afghanistan?
Well, we're not in worrying business, we're in laboring business. And what we have done is, in 2011, Turkey has taken the lead in the international community and put together a comprehensive package of regional cooperation. In this new era that started this year, the regional dimension has acquired even a higher significance. And there is now an Istanbul process that includes, of course, some rules of conduct for the regional countries, and also a set of confidence-building measures on a diversity of critical issues like counterterrorism, counter-narcotics, trades, investment, and what have you. And according to the Istanbul process, different countries have taken leadership in these clusters. India is one of those leads. And Turkey and India are cooperating and will cooperate, I think, even more.
As we sit here, in Brisbane, the G20 is going to be beginning, and Turkey becomes the next chair of the G20. First of all, is there any possibility of a meeting on the sidelines between the Turkish Prime Minister and the Indian Prime Minister, and what's on the table for that?
Well, one of the critical elements that is needed to reinvigorate the Turkish-Indian relations is, of course, a prime ministerial visit.
True.
That's been absent since the year of 2003. The last Indian prime minister who visited Turkey was Mr. Vajpayee. So this is too long a gap in terms of the attention given at prime ministerial level for a very important bilateral relationship that holds strategic value. Yes, Turkey is assuming the G20 leadership. And we are hopeful that the Honorable Prime Minister would visit not only on the occasion of the G20 summit, but also for a bilateral summit. We are really looking forward to his active engagement in support of our relationship.
You've also done your 2 bits to Indo-Turkey friendship. You've recently published a book on the history of Indo-Turkey relations. Just walk us through how you believe both our countries can use our common history to forge a new future.
Well, I'm the 20th ambassador of the Republic of Turkey in India, but I'm not the 20th Turkish ambassador.
Okay.
Our diplomatic relations date back to the 16th century.
That's true.
And so we have very profound links with India, and we want to build upon this. Basically, we're talking about a very sustained and deep, profound friendship.
Tell us a little bit more about your book.
Well, in my book, I try to kind of recall this long history we've had, starting from the point of one medical mission that was sent by the Indian people to Turkey during the Balkan Wars.
Okay.
And this team was led by Dr. Ansari, and the impact they've had was not only in terms of treating the wounded, but also in helping resettle the massive flow of refugees from the Balkans towards Turkey. So this is a history of that chapter, and it, I think, contains a lot of messages where we can go with it.
And for the rest, I guess we'll have to read your book. But thanks very much. It's been a very, very engaging and lively conversation. The Honorable Ambassador of Turkey to India, Burak Akçapar. I wish you well for the rest of your term here in New Delhi.
Thank you very much.
So there you go. That's Indian Standard Time for this week. From me, Zakka Jacob, and the rest of the team. Thank you if you've been watching. We'll catch you again next week, same time. Bye-bye.